Welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here this morning. Welcome to our West Fargo City Commission Candidates Forum. We are recording. Yep. We are recording the session today. The screen is not attaching.
It's all good.
It's all good. Okay, cool. We are recording this so that other members can see it when we're all done. So just a heads up for everybody. I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm the CEO of the Building Industry Association of the Red River Valley. Newly named, we were Home Builders Association of Fargo-Moorhead for 60+ years. I'm also the plan administrator for our health plan and the foundation administrator for the Home Builders Care Foundation. So there's 3 organizations under this roof to help you get familiar with who we are. Thank you again for being here this morning, taking time to fill out the questionnaire. I know that's a lengthy questionnaire, but it really helps us kind of understand what it is that you're hoping to accomplish as an elected official. We appreciate those thoughtful responses. These activities that we have, the candidate forums, help us as an organization and help our members make a informed decision. So it's an opportunity for us to get to know you, but also for you to get to know who the Building Industry Association is, but also just the challenges and whether there's issues or challenges within a jurisdiction for residential housing, for commercial development, business entities, whatever the case may be. It kind of helps to bring to the surface what those challenges are for many of your constituents. We're very pleased to have you here this morning. The Building Industry Association represents about just over 700 companies. It's similar to the chamber in operation, except they focus on businesses altogether. We focus on more of the building industry scope. So rooftops, commercial business, and so on. But that also includes multifamily, the residential remodel, commercial remodel development, all of that. We are a resource for elected officials, whether it's local, state, and federal. That really is our purpose, is to bring, whether there are challenges or issues, it's to ensure that we have a vibrant building community, because the building community is really an economic engine. The building community is a job creator. We really heavily contribute to the economic vitality of any jurisdiction in the region. So the goal is to keep it healthy and strive for affordable, attainable housing, that increasing the home ownership rate. That's good for the community. That's less crime. That's strong neighborhoods. Individuals reinvesting in their own areas. So that's kind of a little bit about what we do. Just some basic, before we have our group introduce themselves, they're going to tell you who they are, the company that they're with, and also how they're involved with the BIA. But before we do that, just a little bit of ground rules. We're going to have 1 minute for introductions. So each of you will have a minute to introduce yourselves. Our apologies for the intense introductions, but we're mindful of the schedule and want to get you back to work too. We have a system in place. So Elizabeth Cozell, when you get to that 30-second mark, Elizabeth is our Education and Public Relations Coordinator. So she has probably been corresponding with you. She coordinated this whole event. So thank you to her for that. She's going to hold up a yellow sign at the 30-second mark, and she'll ring the bell when your time is up. And we just ask that you be respectful of the bell. We appreciate the enthusiasm and the passion that everybody brings to the table, but we want to make sure everybody gets to have their time to answer questions. Just make sure that we've got time allotted so that we can have a question and answer session once the introductions are done. For each of you, we're hoping to have about 40 minutes. We're starting just a few minutes behind, so we should be able to make that up. I will rotate so everybody has a chance to answer first. Again, 1 minute for the answers. And then at the closing, we will do a 1 minute closing statement too for each of you. So with that, and then I'd also like to remind the members in the room that we'll just have a quick conversation after we're complete. So to remain here after the event is over with. You can text me questions or just raise your hand. It's not so formal. So with that, Trenton, would you want to start with the introductions?
Trent Garrett's with the Cass Clay Community Land Trust, and I'm part of the Public Affairs Committee.
Rachel Ryber, Clay Community Land Trust.
Thank you.
Anything yet?
Cheryl Severson, I'm here with my husband, John.
Okay, welcome.
Tim Gower with Fellbank, do our construction lending. I'm aboard of BIA.
Shelley Zeiss with GNL Construction. I'm board of BIA and the Public Issues Committee.
Shane Cullen, Building Concepts and Horizon Real Estate Group. I serve on the Public Issues Committee as well.
Matt Oaks with Western State Bank. I am the chair of the Public Issues Committee.
Elliot Steinberg, Studio West Homes. I sit on the Foundation and Public Issues Committee.
I'm Joyce Falstead with Cyrus and Hill. Thank you. And I'm the branch manager and I'm the associate vice president of the BIA.
David Reed with Radiant Homes and the immediate vice president of the BIA.
Wonderful. Thanks everybody for being here. All right. So with that, why don't we go ahead and start with Amy, if you want to do an introduction?
First one to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you starting this? Did you start when I start time?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, hello, my name is Amy Zundel. I am a homeowner in West Fargo. I've lived here for just over 10 years. I've lived north of 94. I'm currently south of 94. I'm a small business owner. I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I just have a very vested interest in the long-term success of West Fargo. I found myself saying kind of over and over again, like, man, I wish someone would do something about this. These issues are concerning. When I do that, I try to ask myself if I'm someone that can do something about it. And if I think I can, I try and be a part of those solutions. So I saw some seats opening up. I decided this was an opportunity to start voicing everyone's opinions, I guess, in a more formal fashion. I also serve as a Cass County Reserve Unit deputy, so I have a pretty firm pulse on community safety and those issues that are going on. And overall, I feel like I bring a strong work ethic and open mind. Like, I'm here to run a very authentic campaign and be flexible and try and hear all sides of issues.
Thank you.
My name is John Severson. I've been a West Fargo resident for 13 years. I've been in transportation my entire life. I started as a driver and then management. I'm currently the new general manager of truck shops there in Fargo. I have 3 children, all of which are part of the house. 2 of them graduated from West Fargo. Been married for 28 years. Got into the race primarily due to these specials being assessed on our property. We fought back, our neighborhood group fought back, and just kind of got involved in that just due to that. The 3 biggest concerns that I've been hearing without knocking doors, where they are property taxes, special assessments, and transparency within the city government. That's where I got involved in.
All right. Thank you.
That doesn't start my time.
No, no worries.
I'm Dan Reed.
I'll brief you in a second.
I've been a stay-at-home mom. It's the best career I ever had in my entire life. As a stay-at-home mom, you get to see a lot of things. You know, you trim your budget and you look for the long term of things you're going to try to do to make your family successful. My educational background, and you had is PR and a minor in political science. I worked for City Congressman for a while. It actually was on the Fort Collins NOCO there, Northern, they're called Northern Colorado, their Home Builders Association, basically. I worked for the Omaha Chamber, and I also was with the Grand Island Chamber, and I was on their government affairs side. So I bring a little bit of a different background in, as far as like the public policy piece and the PR piece. I always try to look at outcomes. As we all know, consumer behavior is what drives not just the workforce, but it drives communities. And so what I'm saying is that voters they'll vote by their feet. And so why I'm running is, well, it's a little similar to John, special assessments, property taxes. So those are the 3 areas I'm most concerned about.
Thank you, Deanne. Appreciate it. Right?
Hi, my name is Rory Jorgensen, lifelong resident of 50+ years in West Fargo. I'm currently a commercial reconstruction manager for a restoration company, but I've always worked in the construction fields. I've seen the growth of this town. It's poised for more. West Fargo's doing a great job on the northwest corner, getting ready for commercial properties. Fargo's kind of getting itself out of line. So there's already one big business owner in Fargo looking to move out there when they get the lagoons decommissioned. Excited for that because jobs bring growth, they bring housing, and we're gonna need it all. I'm excited for the growth as home builders and commercial properties will take that dirt and multiply the value immensely, as well as business owners bringing the sales tax into town. Where West Fargo is a great safe in town, and
All right. Thank you, Roy. Would you like a water? Or a bottle of water? You were always. We are doing introductions and it's a 60-second limit. Elizabeth will hold up the card at 30 seconds, the yellow, and then the bell ring it.
So
And we'll be doing questions the same way. So, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
You want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. So I was under the impression that we had 2 minutes, so
Oh.
but I can do everything that I need to do.
Okay.
So thanks to the BIA for moderating this and having us here. Very nice to meet all of you. My name is Tyler Erickson. I'm 31 years old. I'm originally from Williston, North Dakota. My wife and I, we recently moved within just a little over a year ago, we moved to West Fargo out of a desire to go to a place with a little bit more amenities. I've lived pretty much all over North Dakota. We were really excited to move to West Fargo. So in my professional life, I work as an attorney. I provide professional services to the insurance commissioner. And then I also serve as one of the trustees on the board of ND-PERS. If any of you guys are familiar with that or have a spouse that's publicly employed, we provide all of the benefits, health and retirement services, administration services for roughly 60,000 publicly employed individuals throughout the state. I'm running for West Fargo City Commission because I believe right now, I hesitate to use this word, but I think it's appropriate. I think we're at an inflection point.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for having me. I'll try to answer your questions.
No worries. It's a Monday.
Yeah,
It's a
it
tough
sure
day
is.
to have.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're doing Q&A now, and it'll be a 60-second reply, and the closing will be the same too. It'd be great. Okay, and we started with Amy, so we're gonna move on to John, and we're gonna take turns being first, and I'll try to keep track because we're kind of starting in the middle here. So John, one of the questions we hear a lot about economic incentives, and West Fargo offers a few different economic incentives. What are your thoughts on continuing incentives for housing and business development in West Fargo?
I'm generally against incentives. I don't think it's the government's responsibility to get involved in picking winners and losers, but I think each and every situation needs to be looked at individually, not just throw a blanket over it and just say, you know, and I guess if throw a blanket generally, I'd say no, but specifically, you know, it needs to be looked at each and every time. I think West Fargo needs to increase its business percentage versus home percentage. I think that right now they're very heavily on the residential side. I think it needs to kind of swing a little bit. I don't know if you'll ever get it to, 50-50 or whatever, but it needs to move it in that direction. So maybe a few more business incentives and less on the residential side, but generally I'm not in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a different approach on why I will probably be less likely to be for them. So I went out and did some research because I don't really like the status quo of saying, oh, let's not do this for this such reason. I think it's always good to have like data or information. Background to public policy, again, you always look at CPI, you look at consumer behavior. So I found this article and it says, it's written by David Stokes. He's from the Show Me State Institute. And he writes, he says, an Iowa study of tip usage concluded that on net, there is no evidence of economic-wide benefit, fiscal benefit, or population gains. Another study from Illinois found that economic growth in cities that did not use TIFs was stronger than in cities that did, because TIF subsidies cause an insufficient allocation of these resources. And so I go to that because I really do want you guys to be successful. I ran my own business. I was a concrete coder, right? Very hard work, what you guys do, very hard work. And so I understand that. But as a commissioner, one of the goals that we have to also look at is taxpayers too. And so I'm concerned about that as well.
All right, thank you. Rory?
I'm for all the incentives. It's the competition we're up against. You look what happened when they shut down the tip zones in Horace building, pretty much come to a screeching halt. And you hear what they brag about over in Moorhead and Dilworth. They get an unlimited tip, and that's for 5 years over there. And on business, there's a gun manufacturer looking to come to West Fargo right now. And where he's looking, they're getting offered incentives. So bringing more business into town means more residential. So I'm for them.
All right, thank you. Tyler.
All right, so I think one of the things, I say this a lot, we have to keep in mind is that the city right now is over $500 million in debt, like as to the liabilities that it has for the infrastructure needs around the city. That's just in West Fargo. So in light of that too, there's also unprecedented staff turnover that we have within the city level, right? And particularly within the finance department. The finance department and the finance director makes all the decisions about public spending for procurement decisions to trying to rationalize or make the decision to do all of these, right? So we've got the 2-year tax abatement for buyers. We've got the builders, new residential construction, that's a year to 3 years. We got the TIFs, we got the Renaissance zones. There's all of these different things, right, that are supposed to incentivize and create economic growth and development. You have to stay cognizant of the fact that the city has all of these looming liabilities that we have to take care of. And the revenue that we potentially lose out on with all of these incentives, you have to stay cognizant of that. So overall, in summary, I'm in favor of incentives on a case-by-case basis, but only if the data is clear.
All right, thank you. Amy?
So one of the main things that I have as a priority for West Fargo is to really create a 10-year vision. I think many of you are here, business owners, it sounds like, and I'm sure you understand that like you have to have a framework of what you're working within, and you have to figure out where you're going to make educated decisions with that. I think West Fargo is very clearly in need of ways to increase commercial density. As Rory mentioned, we have people that are coming to look here, and we're in competition with other cities for some of these. So I'm very pro pilot program. I'm very pro offering these tips. I think they time and time again in our community proved to be a good investment. But knowing that and knowing how we are essentially a bedroom community. I would be in favor of a pause currently on potentially those new home exemptions as we take time to kind of do 52 card pickup within West Fargo, which is I kind of think where we are as a stance. But I would support a shift into looking more into like residential Renaissance zones. I think there's some things that we could do and explore there that would be great for some of our older neighborhoods.
All right, thank you. Okay, we're going to start with Deanne next. And I should point out too, yes, West Fargo has the 2-year property tax exemption for new residential construction. I think they have a remodeling exemptions. The builder one, I'm not sure how widely used that is. That's for properties that are sitting. And I'd have to look into that data on how those contribute to the growth and also the utilization, because they're building the tax base, so spreading the tax base. So something that John had pointed out, rooftops often bring commercial business, and I know West Fargo is definitely needing to grow their commercial base, but rooftops do that. So it's good to keep that going. Okay, so Deanne, are there policies and or ordinances in West Fargo? Are there any policies or ordinance in West Fargo that you'd like to see changed? And if so, what is your new proposal?
So I'm glad we have chickens. That's really good. We have, you know, right now, not that I'm aware of.
Or related to building and housing or anything? No, okay. Okay, Roy.
I think they follow the national industry as far as the ordinances and policies goes. It's a fair playing field for everybody.
Okay,
Yeah, I think, so just to kind of build on what I last said, right, the data has to be there to support the decisions that we're making. And I know like the 2-year tax abatement for new buyers, right, like that's, these buyers may be making a decision, a 20 to 25-year decision based on a 2-year tax abatement. Right, which is obviously, not only do you recoup sales tax revenue while those people are contributing to the community and purchasing things within the community, but you have all these things that I understand these aren't soloed issues or siloed issues, right? There's a lot of benefits to all of these things. But I think, right, in light of the fact that we're over $500 million in foreseeable infrastructure improvements, we have to take a closer look at whether they're necessary and whether that's an actual incentive that people are capitalizing on to come and live in West Fargo. Anecdotally, I moved here a year ago. One of the things that I did not care about was the tax abatement. It was just that I liked the city. It was that, you know, it was a good place to live and it's full of it. So.
all right, thank you. Amy?
So I'm gonna go back to, again, having a strategy and a plan and a vision for where we're going. As of March 2024, there is 0 industrial space for lease in West Fargo. There is hardly any retail space for lease. Our spaces are significantly higher. I think when you're making a plan, it's important to have everybody coming to the table to make that plan. Obviously, I'm not the expert in home building. I pack facts for a living. So it's important that when we're developing some of these strategies to get to some measurable goals, that we have input. I know that for all of you, the equivalent unit for multi-home is problematic. I think I'm hearing a lot of that. I'm hearing a lot of developers not wanting to come to West Fargo for various reasons, especially how we special assess, considering, you know, front footage, comparison to Fargo, all of that. So I think in regards to that, I know we reduced the parking, and that was an ordinance that recently changed, and it sounds like that will make building cheaper and more attainable. But overall, I think I'm open to hearing the struggles that you all have. As far as existing ordinances in place, I'm open to the equivalent unit discussion.
All right, thank you. John?
I don't think there's any specific ordinances I see that need to be like immediately overthrown. I do know that they have the police in charge of or enforcing like building codes and policies. Maybe you could put that on take that off of the police, which I think would be a good thing, that you know, free up the police, but I mean, that's specific. I don't think anything that really needs to be almost all immediately.
Thank you. All right, the next question is, what suggestions do you have for increasing attainable housing in West Fargo? We're gonna go with Lori.
Well, it's a part of my deal is I'd like to talk to a lot of these builders and see what they're hearing. They're on the front lines. They have people coming to them, what they can afford, what size housing they need. You know, the lenders are the same way. You know, you can get a price for this house for this much, but it's also gotta be doable by the guy driving the nails. So it's gonna go hand in hand to listen to who's like you folks that are out there talking to those people first.
All right, thank you. Tyler?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, yes. What suggestions do you have for increasing attainable housing in West Fargo?
Thank you. Okay, so I think to me, right, when I come to West Fargo and I saw for the first time, right, there is a lack. If we wanted to reduce or alleviate the tax burden, we have to build up. We don't have any more green space to build out. And if we wanted to alleviate specials or property taxes, we have to build up. But that, it seemed like that ship has sailed as to, you know, the appetite or the desire to want to do that. So that would be one thing that I would propose to people if that's what we wanted to do to you know, make things better. You know, as in increase the ability to build apartments. I know that that's undesirable in some areas that you go. You know, for example, Amy and I, we live in the Brooks Harbor development, and we have a somewhat controversial development right now in the works right next to the school. It's a townhouse style apartment area. And, you know, while those could maybe be seen, seem beneficial for affordable housing, it's one of those things that it's inevitably going to be controversial. So those are my suggestions.
Okay, thank you.
So from my perspective, I think that the biggest barrier right now is obviously affordability. Everybody is feeling the squeeze of macroeconomics. So as a city commissioner, we overall can't do much about, the price of lumber and things like that. But I think one of the things we can do and have a responsibility as a city is to overall continue to decrease our mills. We have gone down in our mills 13% despite our our home values have gone up. I think that, again, we can have conversations about residential renaissance zones. We don't have any of those currently going on in West Fargo. I think that would take any kind of dilapidated buildings and make them more habitable for people to want to live there, I guess. And continuing to partner with private partners for things like the neighborhood revitalization programs. I think there are some potential partnerships that we could look into with other banks to see if we can kind of bridge the gap. I know a lot of people right now don't really want to move simply because of the mortgage rates in general. So overall, as a city, I think our job is just to make it as affordable as we can.
Sure. Okay, thank you. John?
I don't know how you particularly define afford, because if you're looking at Starbucks for $20 an hour, it's a $200,000 home might be out of your reach, but somebody might be able to afford $1 million home in that. So affordability, I think, goes along with the market price, but I think the overall thing that the city commission really isn't in control of is inflation, interest rates. I imagine that, and I don't, if the interest rate was back down at 3%, people would be buying houses. People building houses, they become more affordable. That's not really something that the city commission can get help with. That's something that's beyond our scope. But I think in making things affordable, you just let the market kind of decide where and what's going to be built. If you have a 1,500 square foot starter homes that people are wanting, the market will bring that in, and that's just where it comes down to, is just let the market drive it.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
So this weekend when I went and knocked on doors, I actually was in an area where the new part of West Fargo, where there was a lot of rentals. And one gentleman slammed the door almost in my face. And he said, special assessments and property taxes are making my rent go up. So if we're talking about affordability, one of the best things that we can do is to get rid of specials and maybe perhaps work with the legislators and property taxes. It wasn't just him that said that. There are people up in the north part, the core part of the city that are really concerned about that too. So these aren't just, the $350,000 homes. These are the people that are in $200,000, $250,000 homes. And they're concerned about the affordability from the perspective of, can I continue to stay in West Fargo? And the answer that I'm hearing, unfortunately, is no. So if we want to make housing affordable, we really need to deal with the special assessment issues and property taxes.
All right, thank you. We started with Rory, right? Okay. Back to Tyler. So let's expand on the special assessments. And then Joyce, you had a great question earlier last Thursday when we had an event, if you remember. So maybe you want to bring that up next when we're done. I'll help you if you don't remember. Okay. Yeah. But I noticed nobody is raising their hand. So, if you have questions, just plague me a little bit. So Tyler, special assessments, what is your position on special assessments? And if it is to eliminate them, what's the alternative?
Are you starting the clock now?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are special assessments for new developments and there's special assessments for improvements. I think everybody thinks, I think everybody can universally agree that special assessments for improvements are generally necessary because you have to have, you're not going to find consensus within all of the homeowners in an area to do improvements, right? So you kind of have to force them to do it. You're getting a better rate because you're bonding out the debt and you're issuing some debt and you're hopefully going to have a better deal. Right, and then so if we're talking about the new development special assessment problem, we have, right, there's two schools of thought. There's the one where the developer fronts the cost, and then there's the other school of thought where the city fronts the cost. The city fronting the cost and assessing the people, that seems to be, right, there's benefits to it. Number one, what I've heard is that it promotes competition between developers because they don't have to necessarily front that cost of managing those subcontracts of all that. And then also just from a resident level, you have the benefit of having a cheaper infrastructure finance, right? Now, if you do the developer side, your sticker price is all you pay. I'm generally not against special assessments. They seem to be just fine. They're very unpalatable though. I understand what they are.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
With special assessments, if you're supportive of eliminating them, what would be the alternative source for taking those two situations? Because there's a difference between the two.
Got it. So I think we're at a point in West Fargo where we have to start prioritizing some things. And again, it's very difficult to know what we're prioritizing when we don't have updated financials. We don't have audited things that we're doing. It's very difficult for people in City Hall to even tell you how much debt we're in as a city. Like it requires some digging. So I think to say that we could do anything, niche or unique right now, I don't think would be a fair assessment. I think it would be disingenuous to insinuate that West Fargo is in a place to eliminate special assessments. I also am concerned that, the money has to come from somewhere. So if we eliminate special assessments, we're going to do things like increase sales tax, which is just going to further disincentivize people to want to come here commercially to do business. I think that at least with property taxes, in general, again, we have, you get at least a tax deduction in the form of that. So I think it's just a balance. So I guess overall, I'm not in favor of eliminating special assessments. I think the residents need a clear policy. We need to start making some objective decisions on it that aren't emotional every time we have a city commission meeting. And we need to make those decisions based on how we're going to get to where we're.
All right, thank you, John.
Greenfield, brownfield specials, how are we gonna look at if they city funded that, maybe do away with that immediately, get the builders. Let the developers take that on and have it. I don't think the city needs to incorporate that debt. The improvement specialist is really nothing you can do for it right at the moment because the city would have to pay down its bond, which they have been doing a pretty good job of. They're down under 300 million for their bonding, which I know is crazy when you think about numbers, but they've actually been working to get it paid down. And it would have to get to zero before you can actually make a change in the special assessment because the Century Code will not allow the city to charge Amy more or me less in the special assessment for. But I kind of favor the tax or a fee, however you want to look at it, but a monthly fee, like just, say $50 a month on your, or you can budget for it, you can keep it. And all that money doesn't go to my street, it goes to every street. So it's just a big pool that goes in every month.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of special assessments, you guys, and I wish, in fact, at the end, and what I'm gonna say to you is I'm gonna ask you if you guys will come with me and knock on doors. Because other states just don't do it this way. They just do not. I can tell you, lady I talked to from Montana, she moved in and the first thing that she said to me was, we don't do it in Montana this way. And she said, I was surprised that I can move across the street in Veterans and I would be in a better place in Fargo than I am in West Fargo. What I would do is I would do what most states do, have developers that front that cost. And there's a reason why. Families want low, sustainable, predictable taxes. Where there's not low, sustainable, predictable taxes, there's erratic nature in the marketplace. And what you're seeing that's what's taking place. How would I respond to that? I really do feel that we need to have the legislator get involved in some way, particularly in the property tax issue because of the way the valuations are. If Fargo could get to a place where they have a pool of money, they set a flat taxes at 4 or 5% to meet aging infrastructure over time, they have that pool of money they can budget out. The problem right now with West Fargo, unfortunately, is they do a very terrible job of budgeting for later infrastructure needs.
All right, thank you. Rory?
I don't know how you get rid of special assessments. You look at Riley's Acres. Oh, I bought a lot of, so there's no special assessments. That's square footage of dirt in Mount Fargo's 50,000, but it's got $50,000 worth of special assessment. It's been called special assessments. The state gave out that program this year, and I don't know if it's gonna be continued for that $500 tax credit. I was surprised the amount was 95% of the people that actually did it. But, you know, $500 a lot to some families, some fixed incomes and stuff. If the state could have gave the city of West Fargo $500 for the over 15,000 houses in West Fargo, we would have almost $8 million that we could have put towards like the old part of town or the new part of town or with the special assessments that whole. But you gotta pay for the infrastructure and the police and the fire someone.
All right, thank you. Joyce, did you remember? It was about.
I'm gonna stand up because otherwise I can't serve a chimp. So I was interested because when I asked this of the Fargo City Commission, they all acted like I was a crazy lunatic and out of touch with reality. But I travel a lot to other states and I see these beautiful tiny home communities. And I was just wondering your thoughts on that. And the reason we listen to city commission candidates all the time, and they all say, "Oh, we need affordable housing. We need affordable housing. We need inclusion housing. You know, all this stuff." But nobody has a plan for it. Nobody's ever put any thought into the how we're going to get there, right? We're dependent as builders on what the city zones, right? We can't just come up with something and then do it, as we have to. You know, we're stuck with the zoning, right? So with the tiny home communities, they offer a lot of opportunities for stable people, single professionals, elderly people, just anybody, not necessarily a family, but to live in a smaller home. This is not a park model. This is, you know, whatever. And it's affordable, right? Would you be open to like a zoning for tiny home communities? Would you be open to, if somebody's lot is big enough, could they have a mother-in-law home in the back? Or could they have a home that, a tiny home in the back of their lot, and they could rent it out to a college student, or, you know, a traveling nurse or something like that? How do you feel about that?
All right, and so we be starting with Amy this.
Oh, I have to start with. This feels very unfair, Joyce.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a topic that has come up, and I'm gonna, again, you're gonna get sick to hear me say this. I'm gonna go back to a 10-year plan. I think where residents seem to get upset, I look at Riley's Acres in Fargo, right? Okay, that I bought this big beautiful lot, and now you're putting an industrial park next to it. I look at the Shea West situation going on, where we have a neighborhood in the back of them, and now we're adding commercial development there, and there's increasing traffic, and that's very counterproductive to why people built their home in that place. So I am definitely open to it. I think it needs to be very clear as to where it is. I think we would have to do some more gathering of information to see how residents feel about it in the existing portions of town. My concern for that is how to figure out a special assessment policy around how we're doing that. How do we address an already complicated and contentious special assessment policy, even in the mixed use things, if we're adding tiny homes on top of it. So I think having a workforce or a task force to look into that, absolutely, for existing parts of town. But again, I think new part of town, great. If they know what they're getting when they're going there and we have a clear plan to build around it, I don't see why not.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. What kind of square footage are you talking about? And what kind of foundation are you?
Well, most of the ones that I saw didn't, you know, they're more smaller. They're like in the 500 to 700 range.
And it's a development, so they're foundation.
Slab on grade.
Our footings.
Footings, yeah, yep.
I don't see anything really wrong with that. If the market is telling you this is what we want, then that's what should be done. Obviously, we'd have to make some zoning issues or, you know, clear up some zoning issues, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't do, why the commission couldn't listen to that. I think mother-in-law, you know, if on a certain lot size and you can get it in there. I mean, I would be in favor of a mother-in-law. I got my neighbors building a chicken coop that could be a mother-in-law right now. So, I think it could be zoned in, and it's nothing against the chicken coop. It's just, I mean, it's not much, you know, you're not probably talking much bigger than that anyway. You know, 300, 400, 500 square feet in the backyard, I mean, like a shed. Well, I don't see why you couldn't open up those opportunities. I think, you know, if you're talking a real mother-in-law suite, like you're talking about bringing families back in closer together, which I think could never be a bad.
All right,
I love the idea. And I'll tell you why I love the idea, because if we don't deal with the special assessments, what we're going to see with people that are in their 80s and their 70s and their 60s, we're going to special assess them out of their houses and they're not going to have a place to go, first of all. But second of all, I love the idea because as affordability gets very increasingly more difficult for young families, that's a great starter home, especially if you're just a single couple. Where we came from in Colorado, the market was absolutely nuts. People were paying $100,000 over the valuation of what a bank would lend the money to. And so what you were seeing were these types of homes popping up. So I definitely think that the city commissioners can look at zoning issues. And I like that idea of being able to have maybe a renter on your property or whatnot, or being able to build. And I think that would be a great opportunity for builders in West Fargo, particularly because of the social assessment issue right now.
All right, thank you. Rory?
I'd like to go to the developers of these and what were they up against? What was the favoritism to them? What did they learn? What did they do right? What did they do wrong? What would they change to do it again next time? You hear a lot of people that they don't want to see cookie-cutting neighborhoods in their neighborhood. You know, you go to certain parts of West Fargo, you can knock on your neighbor's window and get some sugar. Then as it spreads out to the south, they get bigger and bigger. So it's also where you want to choose to live. And you probably have to be there in place as you started developing that. Because all of a sudden, if you built, you know, it's the average home in West Fargo right now, or $500,000, and you weren't your developer, the realtor didn't tell you what was going next door, and you were under that assumption, you'd be mad if all of a sudden the house on the trailer gets moved in.
Tyler?
Thanks for the question. I think, so when I hear this question, I think of my little sister. She didn't go to college. She works at Texas Roadhouse, and her boyfriend, he works at a tire shop, right? And if they ever want to live in a home, they're never going to be able to purchase a home, even with their two incomes, let alone have kids and own their own home, right? And so that sounds like if your primary goal is to provide affordable housing for people, whether they're fixed income, older individuals or younger individuals that don't have the necessary means to do it, I think it's great. But I think also, you know, you can fulfill the goal. You're still going to have the tax issue, though. If you're just expanding outward and not upward, you're still going to have property tax concerns with those people. And you're also going to have, just because you put a tiny home development, doesn't mean that your roads are going to be cheaper. Doesn't mean that any of your infrastructure is going to be cheaper. So you might have let's say a $90,000 tiny home, but you'll still have $40,000 of special assessments. So, you know, it's at least from my perspective. So then you've still got that issue and that component. Truly, while I think it's good, I don't know if it's the full solution.
All right, thank you. Yeah, any questions yet? Great question, Joyce. Thank you. John, I will start with you. What public service achievement are you most proud of? And this is, we have one more question after this, just to give you an idea.
This is my first foray into public service. And I don't know that I really have a lot of accomplishments in that area. I mean, other than just when we, you know, the special assessment, we got on, my wife and I and some of our neighbors pushed back on it, but I don't know that that's an accomplishment. That just kind of kicking the can down the road to kind of look at things. But this is my first foray into public service.
All right. Yeah.
I would say right now being a district chair where I'm at in District 16, because I think it gives me an opportunity to have access to people's ears, but also to advocate for good policy down the road and any other avenue that may be through either the legislators or through legislation. I would also say the other seats that I set up, Home Builders Association, their governmental affairs, and then the Chamber of Grand Island, that was a good experience for me. And also a good experience to understand even on a deeper level the issues that we're facing those particular cities.
All right, thank you. Rory?
I served on the West Fargo Fire Department for 25 years on the city side. I made it as high as assistant chief. While I'm there, I found out about what's called a relief association around, and 2% of your property tax goes back to the fire department. So out of that 2%, 50%, or in layman's terms, 1% has to go to fund a pension for volunteers and the paid fire guys. So I created that before I left. On the rural side, I was the chief for the last 4 years of my term there. My wife's been a police officer here for 25 years, and I love West Fargo, and I want to continue my community service.
All right, thank you. Tyler?
I would have to say, so in my role as an attorney for the insurance department, I do a lot of things that are confidential, so I can't tell you what I'm proud of there, but the main thing there is the consumer protection component of what we do every day. You are all individuals that live in the world, so you all have insurance. You probably drove a car here and you have insurance on it. And sometimes things go wrong when people sell you your insurance, whether it's for your home or your car. And we protect against incompetence in those situations. In my other role as the one of the first trustees, we are going through a huge, unprecedented transition from a DB pension plan to a DC pension plan for public employed individuals. And I am proud of my work as a voice for active employees that are going to be affected by that change. So.
All right, thank you. Amy?
So I would say community safety is one of my very core beliefs and passions. My youngest son was abused by my now ex-husband when he was 3 months old. We went through that court system. He subsequently received 12 days in jail, which is not great if you break 5 bones in an infant. I looked at how often this was happening to people and the absolute lack of accountability in our criminal justice system, especially when we're talking about injured children. So we went to the legislature. We put together 2 bills, one of which established a mandatory minimum for felony child abuse, which would be abuse of children under the age of 6. And the other one established basically a budget item requiring some type of rehabilitative component so that these people were not at risk to reoffend again. From there, I got even more involved in public safety. I served on our Cass County Sheriff Reserve Unit. I've done over 700 hours in the last 2 years of serving alongside other deputies, ensuring that our community is safe. So I would say the laws were a big one, but overall just dedication to community safety in general.
Thank you. All right, last question, and we're gonna start with Deanne, and then we'll do our closing. So thinking about the future, what issue do you think West Fargo is going to be dealing with, and how would you work to remedy it?
It's gonna be a boring program. Special assessments. Oh my gosh, you guys, I am so concerned about this because we are the #1 state in the union that special assesses. Horace and West Fargo are almost, I think, tied. I think actually Horace is outpacing us with special assessments. Voters always vote with their feet. My concern is we're going to see an exodus of people out of West Fargo, and it's already happening. We are already having people avoid the area because lenders are telling me outside lenders that are coming, people that are coming to buy houses in West Fargo, they see the special assessments and they say, no way. I do have a plan. It is actually very doable. And I think that we actually need to start moving towards that, because if we don't, my fear is that we're going to see West Fargo drop in population very significantly.
All right, thank you. Roy?
Controlling the growth. Said it later my whole life, after the flood of 97, Southwest Fargo was a train wreck. You know, the developers pushed and pushed. West Fargo was high and dry. Schools are good, town's safe. So having a long-term drawn out plan, and again, talking to you people and the homeowners and the bankers and what they're hearing, and making sure we're planning and not reacting to what's going on down there.
Thank you. Tyler?
I think my main goal here to for running or whatever, you know, I'm going to be doing is trying to ease the affordability of everyday life. My wife and I were a single income household. We purchased our mortgage at 6 1/4. We've got $30,000 of special assessments on our home. We are the demographic that is being heavily affected by special assessments or property taxes. I want to improve what we're doing as a city in the way that we can identify efficiencies in what we have by retaining individuals that handle the finances, so that we can In turn, whatever it is, if it's reducing the mills or, reducing the cost share for the residents and the specials that we're paying, we have a revenue problem at the city. And we have a $500 million in infrastructure projects that we have to take care of. And if there's anything that we need to do, it's to try to keep housing affordable and everyday life affordable.
Thank you. Amy?
I'm also going to sound like a broken record. We do not have a very solid plan in place for the city and a vision of where we're going to go and how we're going to develop all of this land to the north. Once that opens up, I think we need to learn our lessons from when the south of 94 opened up. We're seeing some of the effects of that in the concept of, two major north-south streets where people are getting double assessed on both sides of that every time that we do a project, the way things are set up. So I think we need to approach what we're doing to the north very strategically and very thoughtfully. But also within that, first and foremost, we have $543 million of projects that we have to do in the core area of West Fargo. And we need to figure out a way to do that without special assessing $180,000 homes with $50,000 to $80,000 worth of specials. That is a gigantic problem. What I'm going to do to fix it. I love legislative advocacy. I think advocating for more Prairie Doc funds is going to be just critical and essential at this point. I think using, again, our other levers within private investment, if we can, and also ensuring that the homeowners that currently exist know about the programs that are available for some relief.
All right, thank you. John?
I look at the city of West Fargo as a permanent entity. I come from the private sector. If we mess up, we go out of business. City of West Fargo is not going to go out of business. Never going to happen. They go bankrupt, and they'll just get more money, find a way to do it. So I think they need a long-term plan as well. I think 10 years is a good start, but I think it should be 30, 40, and 50 years because there's no going out of business. They need a longer range plan. Special assessments, yes. I think opening up and building confidence in the city government with its citizens, I think is probably a priority. They talk about transparency. Everybody, it's a kind of a buzzword, transparency, but how do you make it transparent? We were all questioned and we were all wrong, but we were asked what the city budget was, and we all were in the 36, 37 million. Of course, that was in my department, and it's about 112 million a year. Right? So and I don't think they have a revenue problem. I think they have a spending problem. So I think you need to pull back the layers and reduce some of the spending, but also just come up with a long-range plan for reducing costs for the citizens and making it more transparent.
All right.
So making it easy.
Thank you. I'm sorry. One more question we got to ask, and so we're going to start with Rory, and then we'll do our closing. How does the BIA fit in your vision over the next 4 years? What areas do you think that the BIA and its members could help or assist you and the city commission?
Events like this, meeting with potential city commissioners and government leaders, going to the city councils. West Fargo is like everybody else. They need to be a little more candid on what's going on in the town. You go to the city council meetings and it's like, well, I didn't hear this. I didn't know this meeting was about this. I didn't know this. So, but it's coming from people, business leaders. I'm a member of the BIA and I do your networking things. So just getting out there and hearing, don't be sitting behind inside the closed door. Get out and listen to the people with the boots on the ground whose pocketbooks are affected by all of this.
All right, thank you. Tyler?
I think, right, as a city, there's a lot of stakeholders, right? There's developers, there's consumers, there's residents, there's so many stakeholders that we serve as the city, but there's never ending opportunity to learn what we need to be doing better. Right, in my role as a regulator in the insurance industry, it's always having a give and take between the private sector and the public sector. What we do and every decision we make has implications, and there's a precedence that we set, right? So if there's anything that we could benefit or take from you or give to you, I think it's just a learning experience. When I first started money, I thought for sure, yeah, I moved here and I didn't use my tax abatement, or I didn't get a tax abatement, and it wasn't one of the reasons I moved here. But I can understand on the back end why those things are so beneficial. So just learning more about why, and then having that candid conversation with the public to help them understand why they're used, in the long term. And yeah, so.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
So I serve on a task force called the Alliance for Children's Justice, and it is a multidisciplinary task force where once a quarter, anybody who pretty much could influence the health of children sits down at a table and we have discussions about what's impacting everybody where. As a city commissioner, we can only make decisions based on the information that's given. And a lot of those decisions is based on understanding the full spectrum of the problems of people. So again, I'm not a home builder, I'm not a banker, I'm not a developer, I'm none of those things. But I think meeting and having people at the table when you're making decisions as a part of a long range plan and finding some solutions. I think you said you have 700 members.
Okay.
That's 700 connections to very important places and businesses that could help be a part of problems that other people may be having. So I really see it as a seat at the table to help shape where we're going and how we're going to get there. And I also see it as an opportunity to use your 700 members to come up with some creative solutions to the things that we have going on. We knocked on 300 doors to get signatures. You all have had contact with infinitely more people on the day-to-day with that. So.
Thank you. John?
I agree. I think knowledge is power. And if you ask everybody just in this room an opinion about something that might be fairly similar, but it's going to be different. So I think the more knowledge you get, the more information you have, the better decisions you can make. So I think that would be the big thing. It's just being a resource for information, questions, knowledge, that kind of thing. I think would be tremendous.
All right, thank you. Yeah?
Yeah, no, you guys are a great organization. I mean, you guys do some amazing stuff. I think the thing that I would say to you is if I was on the commission board, I definitely want you to understand what the citizens of West Fargo were facing and be a part of the change, because we need change agents. We need people to actually change the way that we do developments. But we also need people to come up with creative solutions like you did with the multifamily dwelling homes, because I think it's going to be an area that people are going to be a part of. So, having you guys have bright ideas, you're in the construction business. There's a lot of things as commissioners we can't impact. We can't impact the cost of what it takes for you guys to build a home. We can't even impact the interest rates. But what we can do is we can work towards solutions, and for you to be a part of that for the West Fargo citizens, I think would be a good thing.
All right, thank you. Okay, last 6. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sheldon, yeah, it's kind of to everybody, but do you think that by incentivizing people to come to West Fargo by taking away the special assessments and stuff like that and getting them to stay there, do you think you might inadvertently be pushing people away from building in West Fargo due to the fact that if the developer's paying for the specials, that part of it, the lots themselves will inevitably be twice as much? And then that person is putting that on their 8% mortgage as opposed to paying whatever your bond rate is. That would just might be something that it may inadvertently put you guys at a loss, because we are such a bedroom community that we're all, kind of connected.
Okay, so Tyler would get to answer first.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do, because, right, the whole, you have to have an objective look at these things as much as possible. I understand the appeal of the city not being in the business of servicing bond debt over 20 to 25 years for infrastructure that's going to need to be remaintained in maybe 15 to 18. So while you're going to have to remaintain that infrastructure, you're still servicing bond debt on, that is a terrible financial picture, right? You don't want to be doing that. But at the end of the day, if we're looking at the municipality as a whole and how to serve the residents, I think that is the fundamental piece, is that it's not necessarily going to be more affordable, if that's our concern, if that's our goal. And I know anecdotally, I'm glad that I have special assessments on my property between 3 3/4 and 4.5, rather than at 6 1/4. I love that. I don't love having 33 grand outstanding, but I'd rather have it there than on my mortgage. So I agree.
So one of the things that comes to mind as a business owner is when you're developing something, I presume you're going to want to develop it at the lowest cost possible, right? The reality is people find ways to make that efficient. I don't think that that's always the best thing for neighborhoods. And I think it's very understandable that would be the unintended consequence in some of that. I think of the neighborhood, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's off basically Main and 45th Street. There's an entire neighborhood where it was paid for by developers and it was not done in a way that is helpful to that neighborhood at all. There's $43 million of projects that we have to do because the sewer system was done in a way that does not flow in with the rest of the city. So my concern is that as a city, we have to have that overall picture and we have to have standards that are consistent across neighborhoods. And again, the thing no one wants to say out loud is, yes, the city is going into debt by taking on special assessments, but the city's also generating revenue because we are taking it at a percent. So that's a big part of our budget as well. It's not that I want to make the money off of our residents or anything, but again, the resident is going to have to pay it because it is going to be a pass-through cost. I would rather the city do it to ensure standards are set, it's integrated into a plan, and I ultimately think that it will be cheaper for the residents and it stays with the property.
John?
Short answer, yes. But if you, I don't know that you're gonna drive them away completely, because if you have let's just say $100,000 mortgage and you and your house, and then you got $30,000 worth of special on it, or if you get $130,000 mortgage, the difference is gonna be minute. I mean, it's there, but it's gonna be minute, but you also know that it's done and paid for, it's set. And so you could push people away, but I think one of the things that has West Fargo as attractive is not just affordable housing or cost or whatever, it's the school district. It's all the things that go along with West Fargo. So you can't just say, you know, like the price of a home is the only reason. I mean, it can be a very big reason, but I think the other things that go along with it that, you know, are gonna, you know, outweigh that. And if you're looking at, you know, cost here versus say Horace, where, well, it'll be less, but well, we have a special. When you find out how much the special is, you know, it might just be a wash. So initially, yes, you might push them away, but maybe not.
And you say, no, North Dakota is such an odd state. We're the only state, one of the only states in the unions that does this. If you were in Colorado, if you were in Wisconsin, if you were in Montana, if you were in Connecticut, if you were in some of these other places, they find this very odd. And in fact, I think what families really want is they want low, sustainable, predictable taxes. What's not low, sustainable, predictable taxes is a $50,000 assessment after they've already paid a $50,000 assessment for a lot that they already purchased 10 years later. That is what people are facing. So North Dakota, you guys are used to doing it this way. It will not drive people away. I guarantee you, if we had lot sizes that were available, builders will come over and they will build. Because families want to know the upfront cost of what it takes. And yes, the unfortunate part is that interest rates right now are 8%. They're ridiculous. They haven't always been that way. But people want to know the cost up front. They can plan for that. What they can't plan for is 10 years later, getting a 20 or 30 or 40 or $50,000 investment. They just can't do it.
Thank you. Rory?
I've already had some discussions with some of our state legislation. I'm tired of hearing about that rainy day fund that's not leaking one drop out of it. I mean, if it gives the city of West Fargo $100 million loan at 1 or 2%, they're still gonna grow that pot. Just they keep bragging and bragging, we got all this money, all this money. Well, if you're not spending it, you're not helping these communities that are willing to thrive, willing to grow. And when they bring business in, they also bring in workers. Workers create what? State income tax. So it'd be a win-win situation if somehow they could figure out how to get some of that money out to help towns, not just West Fargo, but every town here growing around. Look at Horace, look at Kindred, Castleton. I mean, they're all, why are they booming? Because there's growth out there. People don't mind that drive.
All right, thank you. Shane?
So Rory, you answered her question, but you also answered my question at the same time. But it has to do with working with the state. So for instance, a part of the development company that did the Riley's Acres, New Haven development on the north side. So they worked with the Bank of North Dakota to lock in a 3% interest rate for the special assessments, which is it's a good thing. So for clarity, there are special assessments now, and then they didn't do in Riley's. So that's
Okay.
It's not part of the lot price, but they did get that 3%. So my question to the rest of you, would you be willing to, not only within the city, to your state legislatures, reach out to them and try to find a way to access those funds to buy those rates down if we can't eliminate special assessments entirely?
Okay, well, sorry.
I was like, do I gotta go first?
And this is the last question.
I get all of these different questions, I feel like. Again, I have a lot of experience working with legislation. I'm talked to many of them on a very frequent basis. They are obviously all invested in the success of our city. The part of the reason that I think this is great that we're here is because you've done this and you know that it's available and it's a creative solution that we could look into. I mean, I think it's important for the city to always be aggressively trying to find the lowest bond rate that we can, because ultimately that's a win for all of us. What West Fargo needs to do, obviously, is have an experienced financial person in the city, which they don't currently have, and then they need to hire the senior manager as well. But I mean, I think anytime that you can work together, especially with places like Bank of North Dakota, to make things more affordable, to get things done, I mean, I can't imagine why you wouldn't do that.
And that would be one of those special situations where you look at everything individually, but, in your situation, fantastic thing, I guess, worked out well, right? As a city commissioner, you're not, there's other layers of government you have to work. You have to continue to work with everybody, state legislators, even US, if you need something to go that far, you can't, you have to be able to work with people, which is the way it is, but government isn't really the solution to anything. Private sector, I think, will come up with a solution far better and far greater than the government ever. I just think you have to work with everybody, but I think the private sector is where your solution and innovation really comes from, that government.
And I really kind of struggle with that because I want to know what the long-term impacts are on using a program like that, because I think I agree with John that I think anytime the government steps in, it usually ends up having some not so good outcomes with it in the long term. So I don't know. I don't think I can really answer that question very well. I think more long term, I think what the legislators need to do is they need to deal with property tax relief somehow. And my firm belief is the state needs to step out of the valuation role, and they need to let their local governments decide what their property taxes need to be at a local level. So.
Roy, did you want to add anything to your? Okay, Tyler.
Yeah, I think, as a municipality, I'm generally of the mindset that, local problems need local solutions. So we don't always need to go to, the state, or we shouldn't be making decisions in anticipation of the state coming into that. But, that's a really good point, is that North Dakota is one of the only state in the union that has a state-owned bank. And
specials.
What's that? Now, to that point though, is that the reason we have specials is because we're not very densely populated. Therefore, we can't spread out the cost as much, and if we're only benefiting individual, developments and individual property owners, I don't want to be subsidizing somebody else's decision not to improve their property over the last 30 years. That shouldn't be my role as a resident in the community, or else we'd have these competing interests all the time. That's why special assessments are wild. But to your point, right, to ask for state help, I think using the funds, using every tool that we have at our disposal, that's a job. So.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna wrap up with the 60-second closing. And so, John, if you want to start.
I guess you gotta get my vision for the city and being a city commissioner. Like I just hope I answered your questions, and giving you the information you want to talk to your people and make a good decision on who they want to support or who they want to vote for.
Thank you. Deanne?
Yeah, I think commissioners have a common purpose with developers. I really do. I think that you guys want growth and you want to be successful, and city commissioners want you guys to be successful too. We want you to make money. We want you to come to West Fargo. We want you to make money. But I think we also have to think about the long term for the taxpayers of the city of West Fargo too. And if the trajectory we're on is not a good trajectory, and all we have to do is look at consumer behavior, there's a path forward with that. And I think that's where developers can step in, and we can actually have a really good purpose later down the road. So, I look forward that if I am elected as a city commissioner, that will be a part of the solutions for how we can actually make West Fargo affordable, but also low sustainable taxes for people too.
Thank you. Roy?
I'd like to thank you all for your time coming and the wide variety of questions you guys answered and had concerns about. Hopefully we got you some sort of idea what our thoughts are on it. I want to bring, fresh ideas, the openness to walk up to meeting with back and address an issue. I hear a lot from several business owners. They own their businesses in West Fargo. They don't reside in West Fargo, so they don't feel they have a say. There's somebody an earpiece to listen to or talk. So that's part of what my buddies are helping me run for city council. I'm pro-business and pro-growth.
Thank you. Tyler?
Thanks everybody for coming. Nice to meet y'all. Hopefully I can learn something from you today before I leave. My goal in running is we have an inevitable desire for growth that we want up to the Northwest and everywhere else, right? Is to be able to do that development without raising taxes. I've heard some of the other, people running suggest that we need to implement, a citywide fee for, implementing infrastructure improvements. That's a tax. That's a tax is what they're suggesting. I want to do growth and development without implementing new taxes, allowing the developments that are being developed to share in that cost of their infrastructure fairly, equally, and equitably. That's what we should all be wanting to do, and that's my plan. And while also, listening to your interests and your stake in the outcomes. So, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Amy?
Thank you all for coming today and people that are watching. Obviously, a minute at a time is not enough to really address all of these very complex questions. So I want to make sure that everyone knows I'm available to talk about that. If you have something that that I'm not seeing, I always want to hear from that. My goal overall as a commissioner is to, again, let's create a vision for West Fargo and how we're going to go and how we're going to get there and how we can all be a part of that. I have an open mind. I'm very action oriented and I'm very people centered, and I want to hear from you, and I'll always want to hear from you. I'm not going to be the commissioner that's not going to pick up my phone or answer my emails or do anything like that. I'm a business owner. I get it. I see you. I'm living this market right along with everybody else. I look forward to the opportunity of working with you all and getting to know you better.
All right, thank you. I want to thank all of you, not only for being here and for filling out the questionnaire, but just for running. West Fargo is sitting in a very nice position. A lot of all of you show great leadership and interesting points of view. And so whatever happens on election day, West Fargo has a lot to look forward to. So that's a wonderful thing. Thank you again for being here. Please use us as a resource. We're happy to, if you would like to get together after this and go for coffee, we can provide you some more data if you'd like to see kind of what the challenges are, both as from a homeowner, home buyer perspective, from a building industry, any of the companies that are working in the building industry to share. I mean, we have all kinds of things. And the BIA, we also provide a lot of education for our members. We provide licensing, compliance. When new laws change, we're providing sessions to make sure that our members are in compliance, or stormwater regulations, that sort of thing. So we have lots of information to share, and we'd love to meet with you and get to know you more. So thank you again for being here. Let's give these guys a round of applause.